Hi, I'm Alex Howard, and I'm here with Sarah Marshall from the psychology team at the clinic. And in today's video, we're going to be talking through a real patient case study to kind of demonstrate the different ways that we work in the clinic, and especially the ways that we kind of work with the different stages, the different subgroups, and that kind of thing. So I know that, Sarah, for today's case study, you've got a patient who had quite a lot of trauma before coming into treatment, and obviously trauma can be physical, emotional, sexual, and obviously we're not going to go too far into specific details because we don't want to, we want to give some confidentiality to people we're talking about.
Yeah,
but maybe talk a little bit about what's happening for them.
So when this patient came to the clinic, she did start on the psychology side, obviously because of her background. And as you said, we're not going to give too much details today, but it isn't really the details that we work with anyway, because covert abuse can be just as traumatic as overt abuse. It's not so much what happens, but the impact and how it affects us. So we very much started to look at kind of where she was and what she'd done so far, because obviously if there's abuse in the background, then it's very important about, what kind of help and support have they had up until kind of now. She'd had a lot of psychotherapy, which she found very, very helpful. It helped her with kind of understanding a lot of things. It helped change some of her behaviours, but it didn't impact at all on kind of her ME kind of symptoms. She wasn't sleeping very well at all, a lot of cognitive problems, and very, very low energy, so a lot of tiredness going on, and emotional tiredness as well. So when we started working together, we did look at calming the system down, very much about stabilisation again, so that she could get a good grounding, and we focused mainly on helping her to feel more safe now. And we did that in various ways with working with the maladaptive stress response, but also the impact of kind of what she'd been through. Well,
as we've said in other videos that we've done, to go digging, you've got to get the stable foundation first. So how did the treatment then unfold from that point?
So we worked in conjunction with the maladaptive stress response and the emotional impact of the trauma. We did have to start working with some of the core issues on the trauma side very quickly, because they were having such an impact on kind of her maladaptive stress response now. And as you said, we don't normally dig until we stabilise, but to stabilise we had to dig in some areas. But we didn't just dig for the sake of digging. It's what's the most intense thing that you're experiencing that's stopping you from being calm or feeling safe now? And we just focused on one particular memory, one particular area, and we worked with that, and that was enough for her to start to feel safe now. And we just kind of stabilised. So once we'd done that, we stabilised her for a while, because her system was starting to calm down.
And I think that can be really critical, because what it does is it gives someone a real experience that they can change how they're feeling about things. And therefore, even if there's a whole host of other memories to be worked with, it gives a reference point that it is possible to get to work with these things. And I think what this also shows is just how important the kind of your expertise or the expertise of the team are in working with these kinds of issues, because it's knowing when to dig, when not to dig, when to work with something like EFT, when to work more with kind of some of the stress side of it, and it's very much patient by patient how that would be done. And what we just kept checking in, what's going, so it's very much a balance of how much calmer are you feeling, what's still stopping you from doing that. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute by working with one memory we were kind of sorted, that was it, done. But it was enough to help her just to bring her system down a notch. And what she found was she started to drop more into physical tiredness rather than the why you're tired, the emotional tiredness. There was still a lot going on, we still had a lot of work to do. But again, it was enough for her system to start to calm down a bit, and her body did start to respond at that point. Well, I think this also, what it shows is the distinction between things like psychotherapy that clearly have their place for working with understanding things and working with certain kinds of issues. But when you've got this kind of trauma, you need to have something which more specifically works with that. And I know that you also worked in conjunction with some specialists in the trauma side as well, so maybe mention that.
I also recognise, although our specialism is ME, chronic fatigue, and a lot of the things that we see that fall within those conditions, I also recognised I was not a specialist in the kind of abuse that she had experienced. So I worked in conjunction with another practitioner who worked on that side, and then I oversaw the ME chronic fatigue side. Although we did, once she was stabilised, we did do some more work on the emotional side and the actual memories, but she did some different specialist work with this other practitioner, and the two in conjunction worked very, very well for my patient.
Well, I think it's just, it's worth just saying that there are many areas we have a huge amount of experience, but when there are areas where we believe there are practitioners outside the clinic that have more specialist experience, we will very much work in conjunction with people, because obviously our outcome is very much to support the patient to get to their recovery.
And she found it very supportive, very helpful, because she was getting specialist help on the two areas that were causing her to not be well and healthy. And what we start to find is her energy started to come back, and then part of reintegration, we did look at kind of boundary work, which she did with her other practitioner as well. But we also looked at different strategies about how to be in the world from a calmer place, how to look after herself, how to manage emotions that do come up, and also how to manage life, because life does happen, emotional things do happen, but looking at how to manage that in a different way to how she'd managed things in the past.
Well, I think also difficult when you've got huge unprocessed trauma, that you can have fairly normal average life stuff that can happen, but it just hits this massive pit of pain and emotion that's not being processed. And as that's worked through, it becomes much easier just to deal with the day-to-day life things. So where did this patient then get to? What kind of happened from doing this work?
Well, halfway through kind of the work on the past memories, we referred her to nutrition as well, because obviously if you've been in kind of a traumatic state for a long time, it really hits your body on from the adrenal level. It really exhausts all the systems. So we recognised that, and she started to get support from the nutritional side. So that, in conjunction with what we've done on the psychology side and her specialist practitioner, things really started to change for her. Symptoms started to drop off, energy started to come back, she started functioning at a much higher level, physically, emotionally and mentally. And the last time I had contact with her, in her own words, she said she was almost fully recovered. She just needed to do a little bit more on the nutritional side to get to that full recovery.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great example of kind of working on psychology, working with a kind of a specialist on the outside, working in nutrition, to kind of put all the bits of the jigsaw together. And I think that's one of the things that I think we do really well. I'm kind of bragging about what we do, but I think we do really well, is understanding how all the different bits of the jigsaw work and knowing what's going to be effective at which points. So, very well, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks,
and thank you for watching. And if you're not a patient in the clinic, then I really recommend getting a free information pack. And also having a free 15-minute chat with one of the practitioners, where you could talk to to Sarah even in the psychology team, or one of the nutrition team, about your specific situation, to see if the way that we work could be beneficial to you. So thank you for watching. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.